right, so this will be the last little video on the first week about history. And what we want to do is talk about animal behavior. And again, Tinbergen is famous for what he calls the 4 questions. And looking at animal behavior, there's really 2 kind of major groupings. There's what we call proximate causes and ultimate causes of behavior. So here are his 4 questions. So on the proximate causes, what Tinbergen actually, his questions were about developmental. How did these behaviors develop? So we're looking at embryos and then also for mechanisms. And then mechanisms would be more the physical structures, the genes, the nervous system, those kinds of things. Ultimate, on the other, are kind of the bigger questions, the why questions. Proximate, I guess, what you could call those the how questions. How does it develop? How does it work? What's the physical aspects? The ultimate questions are the why, the evolutionary causes. How did this behavior evolve? Or survival value. How does this behavior benefit the animal individually and its descendants? And so these are the big questions. So what I want to do is take a look at an animal as an example, kind of run through this example. So we're going to look at prairie voles. Vole is mouse-like, a little tiny thing. We have voles actually in the wildlife sanctuary, California voles. They live in burrows and grasslands, and this one does in central and southern Canada. And the species of mole is monogamous, which means it has one mate typically. Most voles, those are polygamous, which means that they have multiple mates. So the question is, why is this vole different? And we want to look at those kind of 4 questions. We'll start with ultimate causes. So evolutionary history. Over here on the left, what we're looking at is what they call a cladogram. The idea, you've seen the phylogenetic trees, so the ancestors down here somewhere, and you can see all the different colors, and they believe probably the earliest voles were polypolygamous. A lot of small mammals are like that. And what they think happened is that during time there was a shift to monogamy, and that ancestor for this mole, the prairie vole, probably is no longer around. But so we want to look at why would that happen? What would be the benefits? Ultimate causes, some of the things that have come up is what we call the male guarding hypothesis, chance of survival. The male will actually stay with the female just to make sure that there's no other males trying to breed with them. Why would you want to take care of offspring that aren't yours? And so as a female giving birth, you know that baby is yours. As a male, anytime you leave that female's side, there's a chance that she could cheat, that she could go out with another male. So one might just be, hey, I'm going to stick around and make sure that these kids are mine. In a Jerry Wolf experiment in 2004, what he did is he tethered the males so they could not stay with the females. And they found out that they would cheat if they had the chance. Damn them. I mean, it happens. In nature, males that left would probably lose their mate or have fewer offspring, or be taking care of offspring that weren't theirs. So that definitely could be, you can see, as a benefit of sticking around. So let's look at proximate causes. Let's look at what would cause, what would be some physical things. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. One is, what they look at is vasopressin. It's released from the brain cells when a male copulates, and it actually travels through the bloodstream to a structure called the ventral pallidum. You can see it kind of here. And this provides reward sensations. And so the more often that they had sex, basically the bigger release of this. So it made the male feel good. When receptor proteins called V1A receptors are stimulated by this, and it gives them a positive feedback. So we all like positive feedback. So when we talk about endorphins and all kinds of different chemicals, well, this is one.
that is released and makes a male feel good. So this is a physical structure, a physical structure. Okay, proximate causes. Larry Young experiment 2004 that the more receptors you had, the more reward. You picked up the chemical, and that would lead to you sticking around. And you can see that this was done in a different mold. This was done in here we have the prairie mold with the VP, and then this is basically smaller in the meta mold. I should say that these are polygamous. The male's not going to stick around. All right, and then the last one is genetic component. So now they're looking at what physically is allowing them to have the more receptors. And it turns out that there is a gene. There's a little site on the gene in prairie voles, not found in the mountain voles, that actually allows for more expression so that you have more receptors. So we're really kind of getting into the mechanisms, the real nitty gritty of what's going on. So behavior, again, is real complicated. All we're asking, the big question is, why would some males stick with a female and why would some won't? And now we found some chemicals, we found some gene components, and survival rate. It's just making sure that your genes get into the next generation. So again, going back to the ultimate cause, what Larry Young's experiment found is female prairie voles have preference for males with this gene, that they're actually choosing it. They want help raising the young. And so there is something in the female's brain that picks up on those genes. And we're going to talk about this, again, communication. There are pheromones released. We're going to talk about how women and men choose partners. And so all of these things are tied. So what's cool about animal behavior is there are lots of different answers. None of them is wrong, but I think what happens is we try to pick everything apart and look for that one thing. But I think it's a combination of many things that give us behavior. And this is why it's so interesting. And so I'm going to stop the share, and that will be the last of the recordings for this first section, for this first module. And so I will stop the recording.